Hi, welcome everyone to our Cecilia Health webinar. I'm Emily. I'm one of the dietitians and diabetes educators here at Cecilia Health. Our educator, Sally Kate, will be the one presenting today, and our topic is embracing the holidays without deprivation, healthy eating strategies for every festive eater. And next slide. Oh wait, I forgot to say the number real fast with it. Sorry. If you're having any if you're having any technical difficulties, please reach out to the phone number 1-800-263-6317. Thank you, Sally Kate. So this is meant to be an interactive program. By that, we will be doing a short presentation, and at the end, you will have a chance to, enter in a question if you want to, which will be on your toolbar on the right-hand side of your screen. And Sally Kate, at the end of the webinar, will discuss your questions, or if there are any topics that you want her to kind of expand on, please enter those in as well. So, as a disclaimer, we know that the information you are about to hear may motivate you to make some lifestyle changes, but please do talk to your doctor before making any changes. The Cecilia Health Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist will provide strategies to help you manage your diabetes, and this online Q&A session is intended to give general advice. This information is not a substitute for personal medical advice and involves the professional opinion of the Cecilia Health Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist. So today, like I said, our webinar leader is Sally Kate Collins. She is a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes care and education specialist. She has experience working with patients who have diabetes, high blood pressure, weight loss, and chronic kidney disease for the past 9 years. She lives in Mississippi with her family, and in her free time, she enjoys spending time with her kids, cheering on Ole Miss sports, volunteering, and traveling as well. So thank you all again for your time. I'll hand it off to Sally Kate. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. I'm so excited for this topic today because I just love the holidays. So today what we're going to discuss is realities of common holiday meals, tips for healthy holiday eating. If you're interested in modifying any of your recipes, we can talk about some different ingredients you can use to modify those recipes so that way you can cut back on calories or fat, as well as the power of portion size. So maybe you're not really interested in changing up your recipe, but there's certainly ways that you can control what your blood sugar in ways that you're controlling how much carbohydrates or your portion of your food. So that way you're not just totally derailing your diet. And then we're going to have some time for questions and answering, as well as if you want to share anything. So there are a lot of challenging environments with eating healthy every day, but especially during the holiday season. We've got travel we're dealing with, so we may have some car snacks, maybe that icy that you might get at the gas station before you get in the car for that long car ride, airport snacks if you're flying anywhere. When you go to parties, you may be having a little bit more indulgent food than usual. Maybe it's more like dips and chips and crackers and cheese rather than more balanced meal with vegetables. There are big meals that we're having to think about. I mean, Thanksgiving alone is a holiday that we literally celebrate a whole day. That's just it's all around a meal. That's it. And then there may be drinking alcohol more than usual, in that there's going to be calories in not only the alcohol but also the mixers, and there can be more carbohydrates in those mixers. And there's snack foods at our offices a lot of times. I know I talked to someone last week about how to handle the Halloween candy that she was seeing in her office more, walking by a candy bowl multiple times a day when she would go to the bathroom in her office, and kind of how to help manage that. So that you are not alone if you feel like these are all, if you're feeling like you can relate to any of these things, because these are all challenging environments for most of us. So a couple of things that you may hear during the holidays also is, this is the only time of year I get to eat this food, or this reminds me of home when I eat this particular casserole, or oh, this tastes just like my mom's. You may be thinking to yourself, I don't want to offend anyone, so you're not gonna, you don't want to turn down any food. Or, oh gosh, who hadn't said this? I'll start eating better after the holidays. So after January 1, here I come. Um, so, or I'm just going to have one. That's not bad, right? Something I know that is not only in my family, but also in my husband's family, that will happen is like, I'm just going to have, like, just get me a little bit of everything off of the desserts. We may have like pies and caramel cakes and a bread pudding or cookies, and someone might have a little bit of all of it. Like, that's not too bad. I'm not eating very much of any of it. And I think of like this, the only time of year I might eat that, some foods that come to my mind, like sweet potato casserole or pumpkin pie. Those are things that I typically am not going to, those aren't necessarily foods I would eat normally, but through the holidays, those are definitely foods that I enjoy getting to have because I don't have them all the time. So when we're thinking about like, well, how big of a deal is XYZ food? Like, how bad can the mini Snickers candy that I have that's extra, that's on the in the bowl on the countertop in the kitchen, I have extra from Halloween? Like, how bad is that for me to grab one or two when I'm walking to the kitchen to refill my water bottle? Um, One mini Snickers has 100 calories, and so if you, let's say you have two now, and later on you're going to have two as your little dessert sweet treat after you have your lunch, and maybe you have a couple more that you grab as you're sitting down and watching TV in the evening. If you were to have 10 mini Snickers, which that feels like that, like, I'm not sure if I really would have 10 at one sitting, but over all day you may, you would gain 25 pounds a year if that was something that you started implementing in your diet, which that's that is just from mindless snacking. A peppermint candy, which those seem like that can't be too bad. That's just, they're so small. Same kind of thing. If you grab one as you're kind of walking by, a little breath mint, if you have 10 of those in a day, that adds up to 200 calories, and you would gain about 5 pounds a year. But here's the thing: you can see that if you compare those two things, peppermint candies are going to be much less impactful than your Snickers. And they also, thinking about peppermint candies, you have those for longer in your mouth, so that may be something that it would block you from eating another piece of candy. That's actually the thing that the patient I was telling y'all just about, that was struggling with walking by the Halloween candy, that we had talked about, is maybe having a peppermint candy that she pops in her mouth, a piece of gum, or maybe those breath mint strips that you get from, oh goodness, that are the Listerine breath strips, because that mint flavor in your mouth would potentially, like, you wouldn't necessarily want to have chocolate after that, but that could be something that you could implement as well. That is, the peppermint candy is likely going to be a rare reason.
Sally Kate, are you still there?
So if you wanted to burn
There we go.
off, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
I know
Thanks.
sometimes I go in and out.
No, it's great.
Okay. So to burn off those 200 extra calories of the peppermints, you could have a half hour brisk walk, take the dog on a walk. You could go a half hour where you are sweeping, you're not sweeping, rather, raking up the leaves in your yard. So an hour of total physical activity could make up for those candies, which that's kind of, I mean, that's pretty significant, but that's also good for your heart health. But if you were to burn off the 1,000 calories of those Snickers every day, we would need to be on the elliptical for an hour, 60 minutes of weights, and then an hour of the suggestion here is yard work. You could also be putting up lights. Maybe you're putting up your Christmas tree. But 3 hours of physical activity is how much you would need to have to compensate for that Snickers, which that's significant, for you to be mindful of. That may be something that you, that may not be something that you're willing to sacrifice for that number of Halloween candy. And when we're thinking about the total meals, so an average holiday meal provides 4,500 calories, 229 grams of fat, and 389 grams of carbs. So if we're thinking like, all right, well, what is that even, like, what is that like in a day, how much should I be having? Depending on you and your needs, it could be anywhere between like 1,500 and 2,500 calories a day. So you can see that that's significantly more than what someone might need in a whole day. And this is just in a meal. Some of those big contenders that are going to add those calories, maybe pecan pie, a cup of stuffing, dark meat, having mashed potatoes, gravy on top of our mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, and some things that you can do to kind of change up what any of between these recipes. We'll talk about swapping some of those ingredients so that you can make any of these a little bit lighter. Choosing white meat over dark meat may also be an option that you like. A couple of tips just to keep in mind: eating breakfast or a snack before you leave home. So if you were to get to a party and you're starving, you're going to be more likely to overindulge. So an easy way that you can do this is having a protein shake as you are walking out the door, to drink in the car, because that protein is going to help keep you full for longer. And so you're not going to walk in the door being extra hungry, especially if you're going to a party after you've been at work, where you may not have eaten recently. Try not to hang out near the food to avoid grazing. You can focus on socializing instead of eating. Maybe all the kids are outside jumping on the trampoline. Maybe you go outside and chat with them and watch them. You can always include bring your own veggie tray to have with a dip, or perhaps you're making homemade soup. Using a smaller plate to help control your portion sizes. Research shows that if you just use a smaller plate, you're going to put less food on your plate. So that could be a way that you're going to not have as much of an impact on not only your calories for the day, but also your carbs, and that can help with blood sugar control. So this next one is something that I would suggest you implement year round. So serving meals in the kitchen rather than family style on the table to avoid reaching for those seconds out of convenience. If you've got your mashed potatoes and your green beans and your dressing, and I know that we have like squash casserole. If you have all of those sitting out on the table where you're sitting, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get you an extra little scoop of any of those things, versus if you have it on the counter, you're not necessarily going to be as likely to get up and walk over and serve yourself an additional serving. You could also just be mindful of thinking, I'm going to limit the number of servings of starchy foods on your plate. One way you can do that is by using the plate method, which we'll talk here shortly, but basically where you would limit how much starchy food that you're going to have to a quarter of your plate if you're going to do that. You can prioritize your favorites. So maybe you're going to go through and look at all the food sitting out and see, okay, what is it that it's worth it to me that I want to think about having, rather than having a little bit of everything. I'm going to have for my starch, I'm going to have sweet potatoes, rather than having sweet potatoes and mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese. Maybe you're going to choose one thing, because typically that's not a meal environment that your day to day looks like. So trying to follow what your normal day to day would look like, and maybe even pretending like if you were at a restaurant, you would be able to choose two or three sides. That may be something that works for you. You can always decide which foods are worth eating and which can be ignored. So just sticking to that decision. So that kind of goes along with that prioritizing your favorites of what is it that I really want to have? What is it that I don't have all the time? Maybe mashed potatoes are something that you have in your home often, but sweet potatoes are something you don't, and you only have it at Thanksgiving. So that may be what you want to choose your starchy food side to be, because it's not something you can have all the time.
Well, Sally Kate, we lost you again.
Oh, yep. Can you hear
There we
me?
go. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. And when you're full, stop eating. After a meal, you could take a walk with family and friends. If you're someone who checks your blood sugar, you could check your blood sugar throughout the holidays, and then add a couple of extra checks on party day. So that maybe you're checking your blood sugar before you go into a party. You have a plate of food, or let's say Thanksgiving, you have a plate of food, and then you just kind of see what your blood sugar is doing. If you're someone who checks your blood sugar before you go on and have your desserts, and then you can kind of see whether or not that's something that you want to do, or maybe it's time for you to take a walk, and you could come back and maybe have that piece of pumpkin pie. So leftovers. Now, if you keep the leftovers, you're probably going to eat them. So only one thing you could try is only make enough to serve the amount of people present. You don't really know how much they're going to eat, and you don't really know who all's going to come. And I know that if you've got kids coming, you don't really know what all they're going to eat, and so you don't want anyone to not have enough food. So I think the next little bullet that says send leftovers home with guests is a great option. I have another patient who this week said that she's hosting, and she's expecting 40 plus people to come to her house for Thanksgiving. And so she's going to get styrofoam to go containers so she can send home leftovers, because she said, I don't have enough. Even if I wanted to keep it, I don't have enough room in my fridge to keep all of that. Um, so another option could be if you're able to donate any leftovers to a soup kitchen, food pantry, or some kind of community resource that distributes food. So recipe modifications. Let's talk about what are some things I could tweak rather than, if I maybe I want to eat a variety of food. I want to be able to eat more of different things. So what can I change about them? Don't feel like you've got to make the traditional menu the way that family members have made them. They always cooked like this. There are some things that you could change out. So you could swap higher calorie ingredients for lower calorie ones. A couple of things that come to mind if you're going to do that would be having low fat cheese, using Greek yogurt instead of sour cream or mayonnaise. You could swap out either one of those things. Using mustard instead of mayonnaise, like deviled eggs or somewhere where I could see where you could swap those two things out. In baking, you could have applesauce instead of oil. That'll cut down on the fat that's in there. Using Smart Balance instead of butter. If you are having like coffee, instead of doing sugar, you could put Splenda or even cinnamon to flavor that, or oatmeal. That could be another thing where you could swap out for sugar, cinnamon, and Splenda. If you're going to use fat-free sour cream, you could use that for dips, spreads, and potato dishes like mashed potatoes. And that would cut about 320 calories, or about 35 grams of fat per cup of sour cream. So if you just, instead of getting regular full fat sour cream, getting the fat-free version. You could also use reduced fat cheese, and that would be something that you could use in cheese logs, appetizers, side dishes, and that would cut out 36 grams of fat, or 320 calories of every 8 ounces, which is about like a cup of the shredded cheese. You could use Greek yogurt as well instead of, like I said earlier, sour cream or mayonnaise. You could use that in dips, appetizers, and side dishes, and that would cut, if you swapped it for mayonnaise, that cuts out 1,000 calories, or 132 grams of fat. If you have tried any of this before though, and you or your family members have noticed, like, what have you, like, this is not what I remember it tasting like, and they're calling you out on it, something that you could try before, or that I've tried before that you could try, is do half and half. So maybe you're using, if a recipe calls for a half a cup of sour cream or a full cup of sour cream, whatever it is, instead of substituting the entire thing with the fat-free sour cream, you could do half fat-free, half regular. Same thing with cheese. And the mayonnaise thing, sometimes, like, I like my mayonnaise now. I'm from Mississippi, so we like butter, we like mayonnaise, we like all of these ingredients. But if you do half and half, it seems to be, it doesn't feel as like obvious that we have changed up the recipe to modify it for a healthier option. You can also add more vegetables. Maybe you cut out some of that stuffing. You put in some water chestnuts or in your dressing or your stuffing. And that kind of adds a little bit of crunch too. You can substitute cocoa. So if you're having some holiday baking recipes, and if it's calls for chocolate, you could substitute cocoa for chocolate. You could substitute evaporated milk, and this is something that's handy because you can have evaporated milk, buy it when it's on sale, and that can stay in your cabinets too, because it's shelf stable. And you can substitute that canned evaporated milk in recipes instead of cream. Now, if you're someone who says like, now Sally Kate, I don't really want to swap out my, I don't want to, I don't,
We
someone,
lost. Yeah, there you go.
oh yes, if I swap out my reduced fat cheese, someone's going to say something to me about it. Then maybe the portion size is what we need to be focusing on. So this uh, picture over here, this is going to show you what the plate method looks like, or my plate. And so you're going to fill up half your plate with any non-starchy vegetable, like green beans, cabbage, greens, collard greens, salad if you wanted to do that. Maybe you're doing some carrots, maybe you're roasting some vegetables, but filling up half your plate with that. And then you're going to use a quarter of your plate as whatever carb you want to have. This is where I'm having my potatoes, my macaroni and cheese, if you're doing dressing or stuffing. And then a quarter of your plate is whatever protein. So that might be turkey, it may be chicken, it may be whatever. Typically, it's going to be turkey in this situation. Some people do ham. You could do ham, but you're going to limit that to a quarter of your plate as well. Um, Going to the portion size as far as alcohol goes, we want to drink in moderation, which that's going to be one drink for women in a day or two drinks of for men per day. One drink is going to be about 5 ounces of wine or 12 ounces of beer or an ounce and a half of 80 proof liquor. If you, as far as condiments go, trying to keep those higher calorie condiments like your gravies and that sort of thing and sauces on the side. So that way you're not just sometimes I've seen people where they pour like gravy over their whole plate after they've served themselves. Maybe you're going to have that on the side and enjoy it, but that if you have it on the side and not just like dousing all of it, you're actually probably going to be able to taste it and enjoy it a little bit better as well. Now, positive reinforcement works. Okay, do not beat yourself up if you've overindulged. You just make a plan to get back on track. Keep exercising. So if you are someone who is on a good routine right now with exercising, you don't have to stop that. Okay, you don't need a break from physical activities during the holidays. Um, Maybe you may have to kind of change up when you're exercising, but it doesn't mean that you need to stop it altogether. But do be kind to yourself if you need to, if you do have to tweak what that exercise looks like for you. Planning and preparing, so that could be you're going to bring some kind of snack that you know that is a safer food for you to have that you enjoy. Having diabetes does not make you not be able to enjoy holiday meals. Okay, you just have to be mindful of what you're eating and how much you're eating to avoid having higher blood sugars than you normally have, which is going to end up making you feel bad. A couple of things that you can think about that may help you is having a healthy holiday eating contract. So maybe you're like, this is all about making a promise to yourself. Um, if you can tell yourself, I know it is possible to enjoy wonderful food during the season and keep my blood sugar stable. Like one does not have to happen without the other. I can do both. I can be prepared for the portions I'm having, or I can change up the ingredients I typically choose. I can exercise. All of that is possible. And that's really empowering once you realize that. Once you realize I do not have to wreck my blood sugar. I do not have to gain weight during this holiday season. I can do this. Maybe you're going to say to yourself, today I make a promise to myself to make healthy food choices during this holiday season. Maybe I'm going to balance my food intake. Maybe I'm going to limit the sweets and desserts I eat. Maybe I'm going to avoid grazing between meals. If I drink, it's going to be in moderation. I'm going to make sure I drink enough water as well. I want to maintain my activity level, and I will check my blood sugars throughout the day to make sure that I'm staying within my target ranges. Or maybe it's just like you're going to give yourself it has been hard for you to manage your blood sugars in the past, and it gives you've got maybe a little bit of anxiety going into this. Promise yourself you're going to enjoy the special time of year and give thanks for your health, happiness, and the love of family and friends. It is not always about how many steps I've gotten today. It's also about enjoying your life. It's not always about what it's about spending time with your family as well. So and in that regards, you can always kind of work on making new traditions. Maybe it is going on a walk after Thanksgiving lunch before you have your desserts. Maybe it's like taking the dogs on a walk. Maybe it's walking around the neighborhood with your grandkids to sing carols to your neighbors. Um, Maybe it's not focusing on, maybe it's starting some new traditions where you are playing different Christmas games rather than focusing all of your time on when are we going to eat, what are we going to eat next. To kind of have a little bit of activity, and it kind of it makes you realize that it's not always necessarily food related, but it's just about spending time with our family and enjoying our time together. That is the end of our actual presentation. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask? Didn't see anything in the chat. I was going to give y'all a couple minutes um, to put any questions in the chat if you have any. But one thing I think that when someone
Sally Kate, we lost you again.
oh,
There we
I
go.
don't know what's happening with my internet. I guess is
I
what's
know
going
it's weird
on. But
today.
so I can never have some dessert that I really enjoy having. And like I said, you can swap out some ingredients if you wanted to swap out the sugar for Splenda in one of those recipes. But and if you do that, I would suggest going maybe to like the Splenda website and going to see if you can find a recipe that someone else has tried out rather than just swapping out sugar for Splenda, because there are things that properties that sugar has that artificial sweeteners don't always have. Whereas like if you're baking cookies, you don't necessarily get that like nice brown crust when you use artificial sweeteners as if you do with the sugar. And so there's some things that work better as a substitute than others, is what I mean by that. So yes, like if you're thinking, can I ever have dessert again? I love this. I love pumpkin pie. I want to have pumpkin pie. Think about what you're eating for the whole meal. If and this thing goes for the same thing with birthdays or any celebration where you may really want to have some kind of dessert. Having Thinking about what you're eating for the whole meal. Maybe you're not going to have mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese and dressing. Maybe you're going to have trying to have like one of those things and enjoy your pumpkin pie. But maybe you're not going to have all only starches available for your side. Um, and maybe you're going to walk a little bit. You're going to take your dog. If you walk your dog in the morning and you have a little bit extra time, maybe you're going to go a little bit further today. Um, Maybe you're going to put some headphones on and turn on some holiday music and walk a little bit longer for an extra song or two. But there's certainly ways that you can eat your favorite foods without having without feeling like you're not getting everything that you want to have, and you're also not having big implications with your blood sugars as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, Sally Kate, for
Absolutely.
presenting today. And like she was saying, this is a topic that you can really expand on as well. So if you have additional questions about what's right for you, please do bring that up with your Cecilia Health coach as well. Now we do have more webinars here coming up here for the next couple of months. Here in December is called Taking Control and Inspiring Tools and Tips for Becoming Your Own Diabetes Coach. That one's another great one where it's to really encourage you to think about, okay, before you go in to see your doctor, or how do you find trends with your blood sugars, things like that. And then in January, we'll be talking about setting those New Year's resolutions with a focus on the diabetes as well. So please check those out as well. You can always check us out on our Facebook page and also our website as well. Thank you again so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye bye.